Well, hello again, everyone. Awesomers out there, this is episode number 210 of the Awesomers.com podcast. And today I'm doing a Cancun edition between meetings and so forth. And really, my point of talking to you today is to give you a little bit of a Chinese New Year update. Usually, we talk about Chinese New Year, also known as Spring Festival in China, as a point for sellers to prepare for beforehand and get all their shipments going well in advance. And this Chinese New Year has proven to be, well, no exception in terms of complexity and extra fun times. And so I'm going to just take you through. This is going to be relatively quick. If you have questions about Chinese New Year or importing into the U.S. or Europe or wherever, Global Talk, we can do a little of that. But I want to give you a couple of the things that we've been talking about internally and also with some very advanced. This is interesting. So I am in Cancun. Perhaps you can see that's not a fake background like so many of mine are. That's a real one. And I'm not sure how good my signal is or how strong it is, but we're going to charge through just the same. So if you can, let me know if you guys can hear me. Okay, I see some folks in the room live, and I know obviously if you're listening on audio later, you may not be able to hear things. Sometimes I don't see these things until later. StreamYard is not 100% synced up, I guess. But in any case, let's just charge forward. I'll assume that as long as people are on here that they can hear me. And in any case, I'll have a recording. So a couple things. Basic Chinese New Year, normal world preparations include getting your orders in ahead of time. And I'm not talking about, like, if Chinese New Year cutoff is February 1, you should have your orders in by the end of October, mid-November, typically. Sometimes people, certain factories will take things until, sometime in December. But usually those are smaller factories with lower customer counts. The bigger guys want it as fast as they can get it. So that's normal. This year, we moved it up a bit so that we did some Chinese New Year ordering ahead of time. Even, late September, mid-October, we were trying to be done. And the freight companies have really, really horked up the ball. The containers just aren't returning like they should to the primary origin points of product. And so if you have factories that have a bunch of products and you have no containers to put them on, you got a problem. And so we're seeing a lot of delays. We're seeing almost chaos in some cases. Now, it doesn't mean 100% of the shipments are a problem, but it does mean enough of a problem is happening in a consistent way that we have spotted a trend, right? And in your business, you should be spotting trends. And the trend is the normal things that have been working consistently, systemically for a decade or more are not always working now. So maybe we have a 10 or 20% breakdown rate on that. And, that's significant. If you're talking about, in January, we might move 200 containers. We're going to have, maybe even 210, 220. We're going to have 10 to 20 containers, maybe more, that are delayed and pushed beyond Chinese New Year. So that in itself it sucks. It's life. You just have to deal with these things. They happen, and you plod your way through as best you can. The compounding issue is there are some coronavirus flare-ups in China in various cities, still quite small in terms of at least what they're reporting, but they take big steps over there. And I'm not contrasting and talking about the politics of what kind of steps are the right steps. I'm just telling you what they do. You can decide for yourself. But in a relatively small locale of 10 million people in China, they had something like 40 cases. They locked down 10 million people. No trains, no buses, no public transportation, no flights. You cannot leave that town. And then they lock you down in your houses and so forth as well. That's happening in 3 or 4 different spots in China right now. And it's enough of an issue, and especially with this new variant, which is even more contagious than the first coronavirus, they are basically offering subsidies for workers to stay at home. And they're also putting in place a bunch of rules and restrictions for workers if they happen to venture out. And I've had this from my China team. I had this from Chris Davies, and some other experts in China who are living it and hearing about it firsthand. And so here's some of the things that are happening. If you are a Chinese worker, let's just say you're in Guangzhou and you want to go up to Hebei to go home for Chinese New Year, right? So you're a migrant worker. You're going to go from here back to home. Well, if you do that, you have to get a specific kind of test that is not free in China. So you have to pay for this test. And then when you go back, you have to quarantine for 14 days. And likely when you return to the factory, even if you switch factories, there'll be the same process. So there's two things that means is, first of all, workers are now starting to flee earlier because they're concerned that more restrictions or even a complete block of travel may happen. And so many factories are clearing out much more early than we would have expected. Chinese Spring Festival officially starts, I think it's February 8th of this year. So it's a longer cycle, but already we see factories going, hey, we lost our ability to produce. In the cases where other factories, they're paying people triple time to stay and work, or I'm not even sure they'll be working, but to stay on site during Chinese New Year. So, you know, paying triple time to stay in place and not go home. The Chinese government, again, is right now they're discouraging that travel, right, by putting those tests in place, the quarantines in place on both sides of the travel. But the factories are trying to, you know, say, hey, you know, stay here, be safe. Let's, you know, keep the quarantine circle tight, and we'll pay you extra to do it. So that's to preserve their workforce. For those factories that don't do that, they could wait. They could take a lot longer to come back after Chinese New Year. And that's really the primary point I'm getting to. If you haven't got your orders in by Chinese New Year, now it's too late anyway. It's unlikely some of the stuff that you placed at the last minute will ship before Chinese New Year. If you're unaware of this, check in with your factory, get tracking numbers, you know, really be precise, get photos, you know, hey, where's it at? Can we inspect? Is it ready to ship? Is it going to be on time? Ask all of those questions. But again, the jig is up on some of that stuff. We have some very reliable factories we've used for long, long time, done, you know, hundreds and hundreds of containers. And there's some of those that just simply aren't going to be able to make it. When your workforce shrinks significantly, unexpectedly, these are variables that happen. And then, of course, the other side of this, let's just assume that the outbreaks don't get crazy bad. The quarantine situation will slow the recovery down. Even some factories are saying they're going to come back 3 or 4 weeks after the normal Chinese New Year based on them forecasting trouble. So your takeaways, if you're listening to this and you're an importer or, you know, into that global trade, know that freight and logistics are already hard enough. Check on your orders if you have them. If you haven't got them, don't worry. You know, Chinese New Year, the jig is up. And expect delays on the other side of it. These are weird times. It's not always, you know, a simple thing. The concept is simple. I place an order, they ship me the order, I put the order online or, you know, in stores or wherever I'm putting it, and I sell it. That remains intact, but some of the pain points in between are problematic. So now I can't see any comments from you guys. So if you guys are making comments or asking questions, I beg your forgiveness. I cannot see any of those. Usually I have a bunch of comments and a bunch of questions and, you know, hey, Steve, how you doing? And where you're from and so forth. But I don't see any of those. And so I want to just let you guys know that I can't see those. And if you are sending them, I apologize that I'm not getting to them live. And I'll probably just keep this short as a result, unless I see something pop up here. By the way, jump over to Clubhouse if you haven't already. At Steve Simonson, I'm on Clubhouse. We're doing live hangouts there pretty often. Empower E-commerce Cooperative as a club, and also Melissa and the gang are doing lots and lots of hangouts talking about various topics, not just China. You know, how to get you know, better rates on this or that. You know, there's probably 80 products or services people need, and Empowery as a nonprofit e-commerce cooperative, the only nonprofit member-owned co-op that exists for e-commerce, They are doing everything they can to make your lives easier, help you get discounts and earn rebates, and so on and so forth. So anyway, this is episode number 210 of the Awesomers.com podcast, everybody. I'm doing kind of a live version on YouTube and some Facebook pages. Unfortunately, because I can't see the comments, I'm not going to be able to do it as interactive as I'd like. But if you are on Clubhouse, look for us later. We're definitely going to be out there talking about business and basically networking and schmoozing with our favorite people, entrepreneurs. So thanks again, everybody. We're going to tie it up for now. Appreciate you all, and I wish you an amazing, amazing week, and we'll talk soon. Bye, everybody.